Welcome to The Explainer. We're always told to follow our hearts, but what if your wallet has a say in the matter? Today, we're digging into a pretty provocative idea. Could staying single actually make you richer? Let's break down the economics of love and money.
All right, let's get right into it. There's this common idea that tying the knot, with all the responsibilities that come with it, can actually hold you back financially. So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at a really fascinating study from 2020 that put this exact question to the test. So, why Russia of all places? Well, to really test an idea like this, researchers needed what you might call a unique social laboratory. And they found one in post-Soviet Russia. It's just this incredible place to see how money, marriage, and government policy all mix together. Okay, first you need a little bit of context. Russia's fertility rate is only about 1.4 children per woman. Now, that number is a huge national concern for the government, and it really drives a lot of the policies we're about to see.
And here's another number for you, 30%. That's roughly how many families with kids are headed by a single parent. This shift in the family dynamic is exactly what the government is trying to, influence.
Now, what's so interesting is how this background leads to this really stark difference in policy. You see, while Western Europe is mostly adapting to all kinds of new family structures, Russia is actively using money, economic incentives, to push for the traditional family model. And that makes it the perfect place to ask, do those incentives even work?
So how on earth do you even begin to measure the financial hit, or help, of a decision as personal as getting married? Well, economists actually have a surprisingly straightforward place to start.
They start with a classic tool called the Mincer equation. The easiest way to think about it is like a basic recipe for predicting someone's salary. For decades, the thinking has been that your paycheck is mostly based on just two main ingredients: how much school you've had and how long you've been working. Simple enough, right?
So what these researchers did was take that classic recipe, and they added a really fascinating new ingredient into the mix: your marital status. Then they ran this new formula through a massive data set from the Russia Longitudinal Monitoring Survey. We're talking 18 years of real people's lives, just to see if being single or married really changed the final number. So, after crunching all those numbers from nearly 2 decades of data, what did they find? Well, the answer pretty much flies in the face of what most people would guess.
It turns out that popular idea that single people earn more because they can focus on their careers, well, in Russia, it's basically a myth. When you look at the entire population, the researchers found no real statistical link between being married and earning more or less money. But hold on, this story does not end there. Because when the researchers decided to split the data by gender, a completely different and way more interesting picture started to form. It turns out the big average was hiding a dramatic divide.
This is where it gets really interesting. For men, getting married is actually linked to what economists call a wage premium. They literally earn more than their single buddies. But for women, there's some weak evidence of the opposite, a potential marriage penalty in their paychecks.
And look, for men, this isn't just a tiny bump. We are talking a solid 10 to 12% more for married men. This one finding just completely flips that whole single means richer idea right on its head.
So what does this huge gender twist mean for public policy? Especially in a country like Russia that is actively using financial perks to try and get people to form traditional families.
Well, these findings basically throw a wrench in the whole government strategy. If people aren't avoiding marriage because they're scared of losing money, and for men, it's actually the opposite, then policies designed to tempt people into marriage with cash are probably missing the point entirely.
The study's author, Edgar Demetrio Tovar Garcia, really says it all right here. He puts it plainly, policies based on an income approach just aren't going to work. The data is basically saying you can't solve a non-financial problem with a financial solution.
So at the end of the day, this whole investigation leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? We love to analyze our big life choices through this cold, hard economic lens. But maybe the real reasons we build families and choose partners, maybe they just can't be found on a spreadsheet. If it isn't about the money, what do you think is really driving these huge decisions?